Srdačno vi pozdravljavam. Hvala.
I congratulate you.
Dear Bojko, dear Manfred, dear ministers, Andrej, dear Mikulaš, dear friends from the civil society in the Western Balkans countries, it's a great pleasure to be here in Sofia at this event, which together with the great efforts of the European Council for Foreign Relations and the Wilfried Martens Center represents another excellent opportunity together with the European movement, which is now led by Eva, and this is a great, I would say, honor for Bulgaria. You have a great MEP and at the same time president of the most perhaps referential international NGO for Europe, because this is the year where we will celebrate 70 years of the Hague Congress, and you can be proud as Bulgarians that Eva is leading this organization. I think that Bojko's initiative to hold after 15 years after first Zagreb in 2000 and then Thessaloniki in 2003, a summit between the leaders of the EU member states and the heads of state and government of the Western Balkans countries is an event per se. This demonstrates that it has taken us 15 years to put the region back to the agenda in this format at the level of the heads of state and government of the European Union. This might now, since it's happening, look simple, but it was not. Because many of you, and I see there are many experienced analysts, Goran, here in this room, who will remember that the initial idea back in 2003 was to hold 3 annual summits. So the idea was to have 2006, 9, 12, 15 and come to 2018. They did not take place. They did not take place. Last week I delivered a speech at my law faculty in Zagreb and explained that there was one simple and clear difference vis-à-vis the enlargement in the decade that has passed, the first decade of 2000 and the 90s. In the 90s, the political responsibility of the West vis-à-vis the countries who were unfortunately on the wrong side of the Iron Curtain was an expression of solidarity to be given to the friends who did not live in democracies for 45 years. It was an embodiment of the message of John Paul II in his speech in the European Parliament in 1988, when he, in a way, anticipated the fall of the communist regimes by saying we should allow the other lung of Europe to breathe. And this policy was characterized by open hands. You were deprived, you lived in a monoparty system, no democracy, planned economy, totalitarian regimes. The tectonic changes happened. We are here to extend the hand and help you catch up with us. And what was the product of the 90s? The product of the 90s was a swift development, economic transition, political institution building, and institutional acceleration of the Central and Eastern European countries towards the EU. Finalized on the 1st of May 2004 and the 1st of January 2007, when Bulgaria and Romania joined the other 10 countries. For this part of the world which is on our agenda today, the Western Balkans, the history was not as forthcoming as it was for these 12 states. First of all, because of the policies of Milosevic regime, who, with its aggressive policies, created war in Slovenia, in Croatia, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, later on in Kosovo. That's why the 90s, for instance, for my country, were completely lost in terms of the EU accession. I said to the young law students, we were a footnote country in the 90s. No contractual relations, no financial assistance, no pre-accession programs. The only thing we had was the autonomous trade measures, humanitarian aid, and an ad hoc political dialogue. All the way until 2000. And that's why that Zagreb summit, the first one based on the initiative of Chirac and Mesic, who was the Croatian president at the time, opened the European perspective vis-à-vis the countries in the region. This was key. And only after that, the acceleration came. Unfortunately, after Thessaloniki, we slowed down the dynamics for many reasons: the enlargement fatigue, the consequences of the Big Bang, the rising populism, the institutional crisis, many elements which somehow created a more reserved stance in the EU member states vis-à-vis the enlargement. And the consequence was the slower enlargement. That's why in this last year of the current mandate of the European Parliament, Manfred, and the last year of the Juncker's Commission mandate, it is key that we have witnessed a far more ambitious, far more open, and far more dynamic strategy that has been published recently by the Commission, giving more optimism for the countries in the region. And this is a big novelty, almost paving the way for the agenda until 2025. And this is why I think this moment should be seized, first and foremost by the governments and the leaders and the political parties, but also by the civil society of all the countries in the region, which are basically grouped out of 6 in 2-2-2 situation, and to build upon the logic of the individual merits, the logic of the instruments and mechanisms helping the countries to go forward, to build upon better connectivity, because a sort of a subtitle of this summit will be the better connectivity, which is certainly a need for the countries and the peoples in the region, because we all know how difficult it is to get by plane from one capital to another, let alone road or railway transportation. So this is also part of our responsibility and our priorities. And that's why I would like all of us to use this push, including an excellent EPP summit declaration, a very good text that has been prepared also by the European Council and the WEB countries tomorrow, as well as the input coming from you today. As the Croatian Prime Minister already started, we will repeat this summit in 2020 in the altered circumstances: new multi-annual financial framework adopted, new Commission, new Council, new Parliament. That will be a chance to build upon the progress which will be done. We will do together with Bojko and other EU member states, neighbors of the countries in the Western Balkans, to do as much help as we can, not only by transferring our knowledge, our experience, our experts, but creating a conducive atmosphere. This is key. The conducive atmosphere in the publics, in the political parties, groups, and finally within the institutions which are supposed to be taking the key decisions. And for that, we need to work a lot, because Europe is changing on a daily basis. Look at the national elections, look at the consequences of the first trends which were shown by the strong improvement of the ratings of the populist, literally anti-systemic, anti-establishment, and at the end of the day, anti-European political parties. This is certainly a danger for enlargement. The stronger those parties will become, the less enlargement will happen. It is as simple and as clear to understand. Therefore, my message is we should seize the moment, seize the enthusiasm, seize the initiative by Bojko, and echo in our work the input and still the enthusiastic thrive that exists among the members of the civil society and most of all among the peoples of the countries in the region. Croatia is here to help I zajedno sa Bugarskom ćemo učiniti sve da to bude brže nego što je bilo do sada. Hvala vam.